Inside the Karen Reed trial, shocking new evidence exposed. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we take you into one of the most debated criminal cases in recent memory, a case where love, death, and allegations of corruption collide. A Boston police officer is found lifeless in the snow, and his girlfriend, Karen Reed, is accused of running him over with her SUV after a night of drinking. But was it really an accident fueled by rage and alcohol? Or is she being framed in a cover-up involving law enforcement itself? As Karen stands trial again after a hung jury, new evidence and explosive testimony are raising serious questions. Who really killed Officer John O'Keefe? And could the justice system be hiding the truth? Stay with us, because what we're about to uncover will challenge everything you think you know about guilt, innocence, and power. After months of public speculation and two trials, the retrial of Karen Reed has reignited a firestorm of debate over what truly happened on that frigid January night in 2022. At the heart of this case lies the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, beloved by colleagues and known for raising his late sister's children. His lifeless body was discovered in the snow outside 34 Fairview Road, the home of a fellow officer. The prosecution claims it was his girlfriend, Karen Reed, who struck him with her SUV and left him to die. The defense, however, paints a very different picture, one of cover-ups, botched evidence, and a scapegoated woman. One of the central pieces of evidence being dissected in court is the timeline built from text messages, call logs, and cell phone data. Karen and John were seen together the night before at two bars, C.F. McCarthy's and the Waterfall Bar. While their interactions in public appeared amicable, messages exchanged earlier that day suggested their relationship was strained. Nevertheless, Karen claims she dropped John off at the house for a party around midnight and drove away, never seeing him again until the next morning when she returned and found him unresponsive in the snow. But what happened in the hours between her departure and the discovery of John's body remains in dispute. Prosecutors argue that Karen, intoxicated and emotional, struck him with her vehicle, either accidentally or deliberately, before fleeing the scene. They say pieces of her broken taillight were found near John's body, physical evidence tying her car to the impact. But the defense counters that the taillight wasn't fully broken when first observed, raising the possibility that evidence may have been planted or tampered with later while the car was in police custody. Another key element is the now infamous Google search. Around 2:27 a.m., someone allegedly searched, "How long to die in the cold," on a phone belonging to Jennifer McCabe, a friend of Karen's. If this timestamp is accurate, the defense claims, it suggests John was already dying or dead outside, long before Karen would have known to be concerned. This supports their theory that something happened inside the house, possibly a violent altercation, and that John's body was dumped outside afterward. However, prosecutors have challenged this timeline, suggesting the search occurred hours later and casting doubt on the defense's interpretation. To make matters more complex, no one saw Karen hit John. Several witnesses testified that they saw her SUV outside the house that night, but no one witnessed a collision. And John's injuries? According to some experts, they weren't consistent with being struck by a vehicle. They argue the injuries could have occurred from a fall or a beating, further clouding the picture. Yet others, aligned with the prosecution, assert that the pattern of trauma fits with being hit by a car. It's a battle of experts, each offering compelling but conflicting opinions. Perhaps the most emotionally charged testimony revolves around what Karen allegedly said when she found John's body. Multiple witnesses, including first responders, claim she screamed, "I hit him! I hit him!" The prosecution says this was a confession, but defense attorneys argue that her words were taken out of context, that she was hysterical, panicked, and questioning herself in a moment of shock. Adding fuel to this ambiguity is the delay by some witnesses in reporting these statements. Why wasn't such a pivotal confession documented earlier? Why did some witnesses omit it during grand jury testimony but recall it during the trial? Then there's the matter of John's cell phone data. Experts testified that his phone logged steps at 12:31 a.m., evidence that he was alive and moving after being dropped off. But where was he? The prosecution claims he never entered the house, that he was struck outside. But the defense introduced data that showed his phone's location inside the property's boundaries, possibly even inside the home. If he did go inside, the entire prosecution theory begins to unravel. And what about the taillight? This detail could make or break the entire case. The photos taken before the car was seized by police show a partial crack, nothing drastic. Yet, when the vehicle was later in police custody, the taillight appeared fully shattered, and red plastic shards were allegedly recovered at the scene. If jurors believe the taillight was tampered with, the credibility of the entire investigation could fall apart. It would suggest someone within law enforcement manipulated evidence to ensure a conviction. That possibility ties into a larger concern voiced by the defense, that Karen Read is being framed. They point to the tight-knit relationships among officers at the party that night, several of whom were close to John O'Keefe. The defense argues that if something did happen inside the house, there would be a powerful motive to protect those involved. Add in questionable investigative tactics, missing data, and contradictory witness statements, and the conspiracy theory begins to feel less like a stretch and more like a plausible explanation. Supporters of Karen Read have rallied behind the belief that she is innocent, that she's being railroaded by a system desperate to protect its own. Meanwhile, the prosecution insists this is a straightforward case of a drunk, jealous woman who let emotion and alcohol cloud her judgment, resulting in a tragic and avoidable death. But is the evidence strong enough to convict beyond a reasonable doubt? As the retrial unfolds, both sides continue to spar over every detail, from when the Google search happened, to the exact condition of the taillight, to whether John ever entered the house. It's not just a legal battle, it's a war over narrative. Who's telling the truth? What really happened that night in Canton? And most importantly, can justice be served when there are so many unanswered questions? With public sentiment sharply divided, one thing is certain: this case goes far beyond a tragic death. It challenges the trust we place in institutions, the objectivity of investigations, and the power of perception in the courtroom. For now, the fate of Karen Read rests with a jury tasked with sorting through the noise and deciding if she's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or the victim of a cover-up that still hasn't been fully exposed. In the end, the tragic death of Officer John O'Keefe has left more questions than answers. Was Karen Read a grieving girlfriend caught in a perfect storm of suspicion and broken systems? Or was she something far more dangerous? The trial has shown us how fragile justice can be when truth is buried beneath conflicting testimony, digital forensics, and accusations of corruption. One thing is undeniable: John's life ended too soon, and someone is responsible. Whether the jury sees Karen Read as guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or as a scapegoat in a web of institutional protection, will echo far beyond the walls of that courtroom. If you followed this case closely, we want to hear your thoughts. Do you believe Karen Read is being framed? Or do you think the prosecution has it right? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more real-life cases that shake the justice system to its core.